All right, this is part 8 of our review in preparation for the FAA knowledge exam. This specific section is on radio and navigation review, of course, and the FAA knowledge exam preface says that this test is designed to determine that the applicant is knowledgeable in radio communication procedures, including, and then has a list of things that you need to know. They may or may not be in the test, most likely will be in the test. One would be airport operations. You need to be knowledgeable in airport operations with and without a control tower, operating control tower. You must understand the use of CTAF frequency, Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, to monitor manned aircraft communication. You must be knowledgeable in recommended traffic advisory procedures used by manned aircraft, such as self-announce at position and intentions. The use of Unicom and associated communication procedures used by manned aircraft. Need to understand what automatic terminal information services provide, ATIS, that is. Aircraft call signs and registration numbers. Need to be able to understand and relate the phonetic alphabet and radio phraseology for announcing altitude and direction, speed and time, as well as orientation. To spot traffic, etc. So anyway, remember, of course, that part of your duty now in preparation for the written test is to read through the FAA Remote Pilot Study Guide. It's free from the FAA, so of course there's other study guides, commercial study guides that you can purchase, but the FAA guide is free, covers all of these things that I'm covering in this little series in preparation for the test. So. And of course, that's what I'm doing too. All of the written tests at the end of each one of these sessions are to give you a sense of what kind of questions the FAA is going to ask. It also gives me a sense of, are you prepared? Because I do need to sign you off to take the test. So anyway, we'll carry on. We'll keep going here. You know, we are not, as remote pilots, you're not expected to make radio calls and all that kind of thing, but you need to be able to listen to manned aircraft make these calls and understand what they're saying. So that's why you need to be at least generally familiar with the phonetic alphabet. So when they say things, weird things like Romeo, they know they're not talking to their boyfriend. They're saying R. This is the letter R, Romeo, right? Or if they say whiskey, they're not talking about alcohol, they're talking about the letter W. Also numbers are distinctly said as well. How do you tell an airline pilot? And when they're describing their phone number, they say it's 770-946-90243. Yeah, this because they talk funny. No, it's because that's the language, the phonetic alphabet. It makes it easier to hear over and understand over a radio. Radio's got static and all the other things that happen. So that's why you need to do that. You need to understand the pilot lingo, which includes the phonetic alphabet, the phraseology. Good manned aircraft pilots will use standard phraseology so everybody understands what's going on. In that regard, altitudes are spoken with each numbered, as in 1,400, not 14 or 1,400. Each number is generally enunciated. The same with directions, obviously north, south, east, or west. And other single-syllable compass directions are simply pronounced that way. But specific multi-syllable compass headings are pronounced as heading 340 or heading 120. You don't say heading 340 or heading 340. You use the individual numbers. Same with describing your location from a fixed or another aircraft. We use either those cardinal headings, north, south, east, west, or southeast, southwest. If we're going to use an actual compass bearing, we use the whole 3 digits. Bearing 120 instead of bearing 120. Speed also is spoken the same way. If you're going to describe your speed as a drone, you don't say 10 knots, you say 10 knots. And military time is also done the same way. we use the 24-hour clock. We don't say 8 o'clock, because then we got to say 8 p.m., right? That can be confusing over the radio, so we say 200 or 2000 hours, or 8 in the morning, 0800. And then, of course, we do have to say local time or Zulu time. But generally, when we're listening on the radio, they're not going to be saying Zulu time. They're going to be talking local time. Okay? Moving right along, we have this symbol here. What does the color indicate? You got to know that. Magenta is uncontrolled airport. Just right off the bat. We don't even have to look for the control tower here. But we do need to understand operations at uncontrolled airports. We understand. Remember, this is a brief review of things you've already been taught, so I want to be careful not to get too basic here. But anyway, magenta color. You're looking for what people are going to be calling. Manned aircraft are going to be calling each other, informing each other where they are, what frequency we tune into. We tune into 122.9, which just happens to be the multicom frequency for communication. It has a little magenta dot with a C in it. That, of course, is the symbol for CTAF, Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. But we see the 122.9, that's also the frequency for listening in on what's going on at the airport. Of course, be aware, though, not all aircraft have radios, so there may be another aircraft in the area just not talking, and you do need to be alert. You can't just be listening to the radio and finding out if there is traffic. You're also looking. That's why you have visual observer, or at least while you're keeping track of the drone at all times. But to achieve the greatest degree of safety, it's essential that all radio-equipped aircraft transmit and receive on that same frequency, 122.9 in this case, at this airport, and small UA aircraft monitor this frequency as well. If you have a radio. If you don't have a radio, then you be very vigilant. Standard operating practice for aircraft approaching to land at any one of these airports to announce on that frequency, CTF frequency, when still about 10 miles out, giving their intentions. What are you going to be doing as you go into near this airport? Are you going to fly over and keep on going, or are you going to land, or what are you going to do? And they would you want to also announce what runway you plan on landing on. Then other aircraft that are close by can respond by saying, well, I'm landing on the other runway and I'm here, and then you can discuss what you might do in the future. If the airport does not have a C or CTF frequency listed, we do use that 122.9 number. So even if it didn't have the magenta C, you would still, especially if it didn't have that, you would use 122.9. But in this case, they listed it. Some airports have a dedicated CTAF frequency. Here's a Griffin Spalding, and it has the C again here, and has its own number here, 123.075. Well, that's the Common Traffic Advisory for manned aircraft in and out of the Griffin Spalding Airport. We listen at that frequency if we're going to be operating close by to the Griffin Spalding County Airport to listen to see if there's manned aircraft flying around and what their intentions are and how we can avoid getting in their way. Because remember, the law says that drones must give way to all other aircraft which may not disrupt traffic flow in and out of any airport. Whether it's controlled or uncontrolled, doesn't matter. We're responsible for remaining clear of the traffic pattern. All right, here's a typical question. Refer to Figure 22, Area 1. What is the recommended communication procedure when operating in the vicinity of Shoshone County Airport? So you can you can find the airport. You notice that in each one of the answers it says 122.8, 122.8. So that's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is just the general principle. You don't even need to find the thing on the chart down there. You need to find the thing that I just said was broadcast intentions when 10 miles out and monitor transmissions on the multicom CTF frequency 122.8. They're talking about drones, so we don't call. B is wrong because why would we contact them? Don't need to do that. C is definitely not appropriate. We wouldn't want to circle the airport at left turns prior to entering the traffic monitoring transmission missions 122. It's got to be number A. So by process of elimination, that's the answer to that question. Pretty simple. Okay, here's another one here. What's the blue? Not to insult you again, you know this, but what is the blue circle around the? I mean, why is it in blue? This airport, not only the runways depicted in a round circle with runways inside, but also when it says Athens Van Epps Airport, all that writing's in blue as well. Just means it's a controlled airport, and you can, if you didn't know that, you see this. The CT up there under Athens, the control tower, that's a big clue. But airports can have full-time towers, and many of the medium-sized airports have part-time towers. How do I know that? Because when I look next to the CT 126.3, it has a circle, a blue circle or a blue dot with a C in it. Well, that's the symbol for Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. And the fact that it's right next to the CT frequency, that means that when this tower closes, that's the frequency that manned aircraft will use when they're going to land at this airport if the tower is not open. And basically it's the same thing. We're just telling manned aircraft, telling everybody in the area, hey, I'm coming to land. I'm going to land on runway 8. Please be advised. And then the other aircraft can respond and say, well, I'm landing the other way, or I'm there too, or I'm over here, and they can all coordinate. Meanwhile, you're listening going, oh, okay, well, I'm here, he's over there. Yeah, I can stay clear of that. So, yeah, we monitor the frequency. That's the point here. The airspace is controlled, though. We look around and say, what kind of airspace is this? How close can I get to the airport? Well, you see the blue dashed line, and that means it's Class D airspace. We're not allowed to fly in there. It's surface up to 3,300 feet. The 3,300 feet is right. That's not what I want. Hang on. Let me get my big fat pen here. That's not a very good color either. Okay, I'll try red. Okay, there it is, 3,300 feet. That's the top of mean sea level, top of the airspace here. That's a question. That's the kind of question the FAA is going to ask you. Yeah, you're not going to fly that high, but still, the height of the Class D airspace here is 3,300 feet. Surface to 3,300 feet. So we're not allowed to go within this area with this whole blue circle around here. We're not allowed to go inside there unless we have permission from the controlling agency, which would be the control tower, which, you'd get a blank approval or, basically probably just not going to be able to fly in that airspace, but you have to get approval. However, if the tower is closed and it reverts to an uncontrolled airport, it's still blue. That hadn't much changed. But if you're outside that area, you'd be monitoring that frequency. By the way, this is a 5-mile diameter between the center of the airport to here. It's typically, for a D, it's 5 miles diameter. Just so you know, that's the standard. Now we have another airport here, Asheville Regional Airport. It's blue, so it's got a control tower. We find the little tab, it's blue, Asheville Regional Airport. CT is 121.1. Then it has another blue dot with a C inside of it, so the tower is not open constantly. So after hours and the tower is closed, you would listen to 121.1, and manned aircraft would be talking to each other, letting them know where they are, and letting you know because you're listening. What kind of airspace is this? Magenta solid line is a C, Class C airspace, and Near the airport, this whole area within here is 6,200 feet top, surface is the bottom. So from the surface up, you have to have permission to fly in this area. Over here below in the bottom, the top of still 6,200 feet, but the bottom of the controlled airspace is 4,300 feet. So we're cool. Out in here, we could fly around there, even near this airport here, because it's the Magenta Airport, although we'd have a different frequency perhaps. I cut that off when I clipped this out, so you don't know. Let's see here. Right, so when the control tower is operative, you would monitor the control tower frequency, and if the airport was closed, you'd still monitor that same frequency because it's part-time. Notice here, where's the block? Here it is, Asheville Regional Airport. This whole block here tells you about the airport. We notice it has a RP. That's right-hand patterns. So for the people landing this way, it's instead of a standard left-hand turn, it's right-hand turn, downwind, base, final, or if they're landing the other way. Okay, so. And of course you would double check that by going to the chart supplement. So you just Google chart supplement US and don't buy the book. Find the FAA site where it's free. A typical question here is, on some of these charts, I don't have a picture of the chart, but on like go to Atlanta, search Atlanta, look at the chart for Atlanta, and it'll have ATIS frequency on that little block by the airport. ATIS is basically Automatic Terminal Information Service, and it's a continuous broadcast of recorded information that the tower doesn't want to have to tell everybody that they call what runways they're using, and what the winds are, what the visibility was. So it's sort of a weather report continually, but also including what kind of runway they're using and what frequencies to use perhaps, that kind of thing. So it could be C, non-controlled information in highly selected high activity terminal. That sounds pretty good. Non-essential information to reduce frequency congestion. Could be that one. Pilots of radar identified aircraft whose aircraft is in dangerous proximity to terrain or obstruction. Why would that be recorded? No, that can't be it. No, that's okay. So now we got to decide which one's the best answer for this one. Non-essential information. Oh, that puts a little spin on it there. No, I think really do want to know what the runway is. And those are important things. They aren't saying it for nothing. So yeah, I would have to go with C in this case. In fact, that is the answer. Non-control information. They're not telling you, your permission to enter the airspace or something like that. They're just saying, okay, here's information about the airport. It does reduce frequency congestion, granted. So that's a little bit of a trick question there, but not quite. High activity terminal areas like Atlanta, big airports, Pittsburgh. Okay. And there's one question on this as well. The ATIS broadcast, like I said, it gives you the runway information, but also gives you some weather, wind, and visibility and stuff like that. And they will typically tell you, typically it'll be C, ceiling is at least 5,000 feet, visibility 5 miles. This is no good. A is no good because just above VFR minimums, that's not very good. 3 miles and 1,000 feet cloud layers, that's not that good of weather. If the sky conditions are clear and visibility unrestricted, that's sort of rare. When is it ever clear and you can see 1,000,000 miles? That's not, that's the best answer has got to be C. That's how you work that out. That is in fact the correct answer. All right, review the concept of FSS, or flight service stations. Those are the lonely guys somewhere in the country sitting in this big facility, and they accumulate all this weather together and all the information about airspace and NOTAMs and all that stuff, and they're just waiting for you to make that phone call. They also have links to radio stations, aviation kind of radio stations all over the country, and you can contact them through the radio as you're flying along. Of course, you're in a drone, so no, that doesn't work for you. That's for manned aircraft. But for you, it's a phone call away. Pick up the phone, call them up, tell them who you are. You don't need to give them all the details, but who you are, what kind of airplane you're flying. You're flying a drone. Where you are, I already said that. Who you are, no. Who you are, where you are, what kind of airplane you're flying, and what is your mission. And they will give you everything. Because, like I said, they're lonely. They're going to give you everything. They're going to give you the weather. They're going to give you the forecast. They're going to give you all the NOTAMs. They're going to tell you if there's a temporary flight restriction. They're going to, they're going to give you, and they're going to listen to you. And you're going to ask them questions. You can say, I don't understand what you're saying. You're talking too fast, or whatever. You don't want to be afraid to talk to them because they want to talk to you. Okay. Flight Service Station also has a web presence that you need to sign in and make yourself a password and all that stuff, so you can go on there, and so that every time you check the weather, they make a recording. Not a recording, but they record that you have checked the weather. Okay, so this is a CYA kind of thing, whereas if you get in trouble and the weather is below minimums, and the FAA says, well, you didn't check the weather. Now, the FAA is not going out there looking for you. They're not trying to bust you. But it's a way to prove to the insurance company, at least, that you weren't foolish when you went to fly your drone. You were checking all available resources, which is what we've talked about before. That's what a good decision-making process is, to gather all the information you can, and part of that is checking the weather. So by calling the flight service stations or by going to their website and logging in and checking the weather, you're proving that you have done that. They do many other things as well, things that you really don't think of but might be on the test. Airborne aircraft use them to get updated weather as they're flying along. That's what I was talking about before. They have radio communications as well to these different outlets. So you can check the weather as you're going along. They activate and cancel flight plans. We don't make flight plans, but manned aircraft make flight plans. But they also will render emergency assistance. Like if you're running low on fuel, if you're in a manned aircraft, they can direct you to an airport that has fuel. They can gain that information, and just in general. So they can coordinate some emergency response to issues. But again, airmanned aircraft don't use the airborne radio frequency to contact them. We just call them up or use the website, 1-800-WX-BRIEF. That's a simple way to get that done. So the question here is, what service will a flight service station, or FSS, provide? Well, no, fuel pricing, nah, that's no good. Clearance to taxi for takeoff, that's a control tower kind of thing. They're not controllers, they are just weather and information providers. Obviously, it's let the best answer, right? They do a lot of other things, but this is one thing they do. There's a relationship between where we use the compass to find our relationship spatially between traffic. Okay, so we need to understand what the compass is, what these headings mean, and generally speaking, in a map, of course, north is to the top and south is to the bottom, and you need to know that left is to the west and right is to the east. But as far as radio navigation is, we're listening on the radio, and sometimes we'll get clues from what's being said. So we need to understand the pilot lingo here. The pilot lingo, as far as traffic is concerned, for talking to a manned aircraft flying along. And I guess if you've seen Top Gun, the movie, 12 o'clock is straight ahead. When they call traffic, 12 o'clock is straight ahead. Or, that is a bogey at 6 o'clock. Evasive maneuvers, well, the pilot's supposed to look back here somewhere. The bad guy's over here, right, shooting up his tail, going to shoot him down, right? So that's how we do it. Traffic, we look, the nose of the airplane is always in the 12 o'clock position. Air traffic controller will say something like, traffic at 9 o'clock. Well, you don't look at your watch. You look left for the traffic. Or if he says traffic's 3 o'clock, you look to the right. That's how it is. It's just easier to say that than say, look right, but a little bit to the front. No, just say 10 o'clock. And then you know to look over here. That's how it's done. Okay, so you just want to be aware of that because there's going to be questions that are phrased that way. Probably one of the more difficult questions, which that's why I'm bringing it up, is this question here. So, ATC radar facility, you're listening in to this guy. Air traffic controller issues the following advisory to a pilot flying on a heading of 090 degrees. So this is a guy inside of an airplane. He's flying east, so he's going this way. And he says to the guy, unmanned aircraft. Ooh, I wonder who that is. That's you! Talking about you, probably. Unmanned aircraft operations 3 o'clock, 2 miles. So which way he's the front of the airplane's this way. Which way is he going to look? Well, at 3 o'clock would be he's going to be looking this way. So he's looking for you that way. But the question doesn't ask you what he's doing. It's ask you where should the remote PIC, also visual observer, and the crew, if applicable, look for the traffic in reference to the small unmanned aircraft. Okay, so you're down here somewhere. Well, you're down here 2 miles. So from between there and there, let's just say here's the Mr. Drone right there. There you are flying your drone. We don't know which way you're pointing. You might be pointing that way. You might be, doesn't matter. They're asking you, is it north? Should you look to the north? Should you look to the south? Or should you look to the west? Well, if you don't know what the compass is, if you don't know what that means, then you can't really answer that question. The clues are he's going 090 heading. He's looking to the right of him, so you must need to look north to find him. That's what they're asking. And wow, if this was confusing, then you need to do a little more thinking about it to make sure you understand. Most of the other questions may be a little simpler, but there could be similar questions to this. They're not asking you to memorize stuff. They're asking you to understand the concept. The concept of the clock reference for traffic is orientation of the manned aircraft, how his nose is pointed. Not going to work too good for us because the way the drones don't work that way. We're flying sideways, we're flying backwards, we're flying different directions. It doesn't work too good for us. But as far as observing or listening and hearing what the manned aircraft pilot is doing, it can be helpful. So we can tell where he is, where we need to look for him. Apparently there's no conflict because he's heading east. So that's one of the reasons why we need to understand the compass. I think there's another example here. Oops, let me push the button. There it is. Here it is. ATC radar facility issues the following advisory to a pilot flying on a heading of 330 degrees. So his nose is pointed this way, which is 330 degrees. So you draw a line 330 degrees. He's going that way. It's just another way that the question may be phrased. And he said 330 degrees, unmanned aircraft operation 3 o'clock, 2 miles. So which way do you look? He's got to look that way. He's going to look to his right, which is, so you look at the compass and it's, whoops, no, don't do that. It's this way. Ignore that last comment. Something funny happened to the slide. He's looking this way. So that means you're over here somewhere, right? There's your drone over here. If that's true, and if he's looking this way to find you, if the tower or the controller is telling him to look at 3 o'clock, then you got to be over here. Which way do you need to look to find the traffic? The manned aircraft. You have to look that way. Do you have to look northeast? No, you're looking to the southwest because that's which way you're looking. Southwest. So C is correct. Anyway, give it some thought. If you're still struggling with the concept, that's okay. It's okay. I know it's complicated. Give me a call, contact me. We'll talk about it. Let's see, I got another slide here, and I guess we're going to beat this to death, yeah. Because it's sort of confusing, I'm beating it to death, yeah. ATC radar facility issues the following advice to a pilot heading 270, so he's heading this way, right? Notice that 12 o'clock is where the nose of his airplane is pointed. That's the way he's going. Manned aircraft operation 9 o'clock, 2 miles. Which way does he look? He looks that way, so he looks to his left. Where should the remote pilot, observer, and crew will look for the traffic and reference? So you're down here somewhere. So you need to look to the north. Okay, perhaps you're getting it. I hope so. But there's another way to do this. Okay, here's another one that requires the compass. Your aircraft, your UAS, is west of the airport, whatever airport. You're monitoring the CTF frequency and hear that an aircraft is 10 miles east of the airport. Which direction should you look for the aircraft? Okay, so you are west of the airport, so I'm going to draw an imaginary runway here so you can sort of visualize this. Which way are we? We're west of the airport. Where are we? Are we here, 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 here? Where are we? That's why you got to know what the compass reads. Almost all charts, north is pointed that way. It's always north unless you're holding the chart upside down. But why would you do that? Because all the writing is written so you can read it, right? So that's north. So where are you? You're not north because they just said you're west of the airport. But where is west? It's not that way. That's north. And we know that this says east that way. And down here it says south. Can't be that. Oh, it must be over here. So we must be over here in our little drone. Okay. We got that established. Cool. But the aircraft is 10 miles east of the airport. Where is he? It should be obvious at this point. East would be over here. He's over here flying in his cool little airplane. He's over here. So the question is, where should you look? Should you look north? Should you look over here for him? No. Should you look over here for him? No. You wouldn't look over here. He's not over there. No, he's not over there. He's not over here to the north. He's not to the south. He's to the east. Because you know what the compass reads. How to orient yourself to the compass. That's why it's so important to understand the compass and what these points are, and just automatically know where west is and east is, and so that's another way that we use the compass, is trying to find out where a person is in relation to a fixed object like an airport. But this doesn't have to be an airport. It could be a stadium. Could be a stadium here. It could be a stadium here with a bunch of football players or something like that, and you're trying to keep track of it. And typically there's some kind of restricted area around there, but I'm just assuming if they're in a small stadium, right? Or it could be a landmark. It could be Lake Drummond on the chart with a flag, right? Remember the flag for Lake Drummond on one of those tests? Examples, it could be a visual landmark that the air traffic controller is telling, you're overhearing them tell a manned aircraft to be looking out for a drone. This gives you the clue where you need to look. Okay, that's enough of that. Airport phraseology as you're entering the airspace and leaving the airspace, just to review that. And again, we've gone over this before, but that's okay. Note again that each number or letter is pronounced individually, just like altitudes are reported as individual numbers as well. Remember the sequence, we've talked about it before. When you're calling the control tower, you say who you are, where you are, who you are is who you're talking to first. Then you say who you are, then you say where you are, and then you say you tell them what you want to do. But if you're going to an uncontrolled airport, this is Griffin. sort of use the same procedure. First thing you say is Griffin traffic or Griffin Airport, so people know who you're talking about, where you are. You're giving people a clue because you may be the same frequency for different airports in the area. So first thing people want to know is what airport are you coming towards, who you are, who you're talking to, who are you, and where are you, and what do you intend to do. So, for example, here we go. Griffin, I'm coming to land at Griffin. Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, left base runway 34, Griffin traffic. Okay, so here is the aircraft number 123 Bravo Foxtrot. That's what's written on the side of the airplane. There's an N because it's North American. But anyway, that's the N number. 123 Bravo Foxtrot. But you don't just say 123 BF. Nope. That's not pilot lingo. You say 123 Bravo Foxtrot. Then you say, well, first off, you said Griffin traffic because you're addressing all of the uncontrolled airplanes that might be there. Who you are, where you are. I'm a left base for runway 34. So 34, left-hand turns. So I would say left base would be, well, it's hard to see, but it'd be down here. Base, final. There's base, and there's final approach. So now you're hearing this guy and you know where he is. He's over here. Well, you're up here at the city park flying and, well, no big deal, right? He's nowhere near me. But that's the lingo you'll hear. Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, left base, runway 34, Griffin traffic. All right, get my eraser out here. We got to start all over again. We may not be there. We're not sure where we are. How about blue? Here's another example. Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, final runway 14, Griffin traffic. Final, that's why you need to know these terms. Final approach is the final before, and what the runway number means is this runway right here, 14. Final approach would be here. And you're, what's down there? It's an industrial area. Oh, you're near the funeral home over there, Hastings Funeral Home or something like that. You're flying your drone for some reason over that. I don't know why. Well, yeah, you better pay attention because he's not that far away from you. Looking around, you might have already seen him by now, but this is a significant event. So he says, Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, final runway 14, Griffin traffic. Now, hopefully he called a little bit further out and gave you time to get out of the way, but maybe not. All right. Another example. Okay, the traffic's on the runway, and he's taxiing down the runway, and good grief, I can't really see. That's not a good color. How about red? He's taxiing down that's still not good. He taxis down the runway, and he turns off to go to get to the gas pumps here. He'll make a call at that point. Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, is clear of the runway 14, Griffin traffic. That means he's not using the runway anymore, and the next guy in line can land or take off or whatever. He's just telling people where he's doing, what he's doing. After that, he doesn't call anymore. He doesn't call and tell them, well, I shut the airplane down, I'm going to the bathroom. He doesn't tell them that. The only information that needs to be told is whether he's on the runway or where he is in the area of the runway. And of course, the same thing happens if someone's leaving the airport too. Let's see here. Like if he's taxiing out of the runway, he's announcing Griffin traffic, Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot, taxiing to runway 14 for departure, basically. So you hear him, you know he's not taken off yet. He's just taxiing out there. Or he might be saying Cessna 1234 Bravo Foxtrot departing runway 34 Griffin traffic. Whoa, okay, he's actually taken off. Now he's telling everybody he's taken off. He starts climbing up, and if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, he makes a left crosswind, or somewhere in here he makes a turn 45 degrees, off to the side to leave the area, well, you know if you're west of the airport or northwest, worse yet, he's going to be coming your way. But if you're anywhere else, no problem. Or he might say Cessna 123 Bravo Foxtrot departing 34 departing towards the south, which might mean that he would turn, go on base leg maybe, and start heading over this way because he's heading to the south. If you're to the south, you'd be a concern, but if you're not, it's not a concern. I think I've probably beaten that to death as well. Here's another example here, and we're almost done. I know this is a long video, but I think it'll be a good review. And of course, you can stop at any time. I'm not forcing you to watch it. Get off my back. Another kind of description is that we have these intersections. You see these little light things, those are taxiways. And so if the tower is open, you have to have permission to operate on these taxiways, right? There's the yellow line, remember the hold short lines and all those things, which we don't need to get into right now. But the taxiways are controlled, but when the tower is closed, in this case it's Columbus, Georgia, there's a part-time tower at night that's closed, or sometimes in the evening. You'll be doing the same thing. You'll make a self-announced, the manned aircraft will be making these announcements. You won't be doing it, and they'll tell the traffic, I'm at intersection here, getting ready. Maybe he's going to turn here, maybe he's going out to this runway, and they're going to take off the intersection. He needs to make a call, letting people know what he's doing on the taxiway. We'll do an operation. We need to do an airport operations segment, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But especially at intersections, they will need to announce or get permission from the tower to take off. I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll develop this a little more because, wow, it's a 42-minute video. Goodness gracious. All right, appreciate your patience. Remember to read through the UAS Unmanned Aircraft Study Guide. When you get an opportunity, take the quiz, and we'll move on. So, again, appreciate your patience.